Hello and welcome to Finextra TV. I'm Hannah Wallace and we're speaking in the lead up to Singapore FinTech Festival. With me now in the virtual studio is Krasnov, founder and CEO of Tonik Bank. So Greg, welcome. It's good to have you on.
Thank you very much for having me on, guys.
Really good to have you on. Yes, we're speaking in the lead up to Singapore FinTech Festival, where I know you're going to have a busy event because you're speaking on a session on the impact of technology in financial services transformations. Really interesting one. I know you're going to be exploring the trends, challenges, and commercial value creation associated with new technologies in the digital age. And one of those technologies is, of course, artificial intelligence. And that's really where I want to begin. So by no means a small question, but could you share with us what real-world applications and impacts of artificial intelligence that you're seeing and hoping to cover during your session as well?
Absolutely, and thank you for the question. Look, we're coming into the Philippines as a first pure-play digital bank 2 years ago, which basically imposes a bit of responsibility on us to be thinking proactively about new technology. And of course, AI is now the buzzword. But within AI, we see that if you're in banking, and especially in emerging market banking, it's kind of a have to have in the next 5 to 10 years across multiple areas. You have to be investing in AI. The things that we're leveraging specifically and that already are in our stack is we're using various modeling and machine learning for credit applications. We're a credit-led digital bank, which means we're trying to lend to the 90% of the Filipinos that haven't been lent to before by the formal financial institutions. That means they're what's called thin credit type of customers, thin credit file. And you need to be leveraging alternative sources of data and leveraging them in a very intelligent way to find predictiveness in the data that you might have not used before. So these things include things like digital footprint data, application behavior data, we're using telecom data, we're using a variety of sources, and we're applying quite advanced technologies to that to find predictiveness, find insights, and generate business value, and especially in the credit cycle based on those insights. So I would say that's the first application that we've done. This year, we've also implemented, and I believe we're the first bank in the Philippines to have done that. We implemented Gen AI-based technology in our chatbot. So actually, we're very happy with how that is going, and it has increased the efficiency of interactions with the customer as well as our operational efficiency. It means we can really leverage the human contact to the areas where it is really, really needed, and let generative AI cover most of the rest. But going forward, the one thing that I'm extremely excited about is the Gen AI applications as a front end, broadly speaking. My view is that we've had these multiple generations of banking and technology penetration into banking on the front end, starting with branch-based banking. Then we moved on to call center banking at some point, direct banking it was called. Then we moved to what was called mobile banking, was all the rage about 15 years ago, and internet banking. And I really believe that going forward, if we look at 10 to 15-year horizon, nobody really wants to be doing this on their phone. What people want to do is tell somebody, hey, I want to get a loan. How do I do this? And somebody tells them, and somebody then notes down the data that's required, and directs the inquiry into the appropriate lender. So these are the types of things we've started playing around with. I would say we're still quite far away from commercialization. This is very, very novelty stuff, and it's still very much in R&D mode for us. But very interesting area, and I believe that you have to be investing in that today if you want to be seriously in the game 10 to 15 years from now.
It is a very interesting area. Like you say, a lot of experimentation and education required to move things forward. And generative AI is going to be one of the biggest topics over the course of the event. They're going to be looking at some of the challenges and opportunities surrounding that. But firstly, we'll come to the challenges. But What do you think has been the overall influence of generative AI, not just at Tonik Bank, but overall as the industry, and what's it had on internal expectations, do you think?
I think it's still very, very early days in the mass adoption of the technology and in how much impact it can make in our lives. It's so far the biggest impact that it has created, as far as I can see, is driving customer acquisition to the websites and apps that provide the technology, and people start playing around with it. So actually, the impact on customer acquisition has been phenomenal, and the people that have put that on the front end have benefited from unique dynamics that have never been achieved before in terms of traction of customer acquisition. So clearly shows that people have interest in this. But personally, I have moved to a significant proportion of my information searches have moved at this point from Google to GPT-4. And I think increasingly we will be looking at those types of applications where Gen AI can provide answers to inquiries in a much more coherent way than just browsing the websites. We will be seeing, and we're seeing this already in any language generation application, copy generation, PR releases. We've had a really fun time actually interviewing people for our PR team and comparing the task that we gave to them with what GPT-4 wrote on exactly the same subject. And I must say, humans are not in the lead on that. GPT-4 is really doing a really, really good job in writing stuff. So there are multiple applications that we're already seeing, but I think it's still very early days in the true mass adoption. But the revolutionizing effect that it will have over the next couple of decades is going to be there, and you have to be ready for it.
Sure, and we can't talk about new technologies such as generative AI in the digital age without also talking about regulation. And that's one of the great things about Singapore FinTech Festival. It's bringing the policymakers, the regulators, the FIs, the banks all in one room to discuss some of the challenges there. What are some of the challenges you're hoping to cover during your session and over the course of the event around AI in general?
It will be very interesting to exchange views with both the industry participants and with the regulators on how AI technologies can be applied. In particular, when it comes to the credit applications, there's a huge issue of traceability, and being able to record how the decisions are made, and ultimately, ensuring that the decisions are being made without undue biases. And this has been a very, very hot topic in especially a thin credit file customers in the developed markets, where if you put a decision engine on something and the decision engine is coded manually, that's one thing. But once you toss it into an AI cycle, it becomes much harder. And regulators are very interested in how these credit decisions get made, and duly so. So that'll be, I think, one of the very interesting areas where we will see a lot of regulatory development going forward. And will be great to exchange the views with people. We'll also be seeing on the front end, I think, a lot of regulatory interest in how that front end works and how it doesn't hallucinate and how it provides reliable answers to the posed questions. If you are a company that's just out there, doing consumer stuff, that's one thing. But when you're a bank, the regulator expects you to provide answers that are reliable. And I had a lovely experience with GPT-4 when I asked it about myself, and it told me that I was the COO of Morgan Stanley in New York. And so just as one of the examples of how technology, still hallucinates, and it's very hard to track down why it does that. So I think the regulators will have to adopt, new approaches to dealing with this, but also the technology developers will have to ensure greater accountability, greater traceability. And without that, it will be difficult to find that meeting place between regulation and innovation in our space.
Well, Greg, thank you so much for sharing your insights. I'll have to give that a go myself and ask ChatGPT, who I am as well. And like you, I'm really looking forward to the event and hearing more about AI and how we're going to move forward with that. But for now, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you very much for having me on.